Hey there, in this video we're going to learn about maximizing volume during mastering. You use a tool called the Loudness Maximizer. One common problem with home studio recordings is that they sometimes don't sound loud enough next to professional CDs. And even if you crank up the volume, it just overloads the speakers with distortion. So this is where loudness maximizing during mastering comes into play. You boost your overall levels here without overloading or distortion, and you keep it sounding natural. It can also be used to add fullness and depth to your music. So how does a loudness maximizer work? Well, it's different than normalizing, where you adjust the level of the entire mix so that the loudest peak is just under the verge of clipping. With a loudness maximizer, you limit the peaks above a threshold in volume that you set. Then you bring up the rest of the mix to a maximum decibel level. A lot of the mix can be cranked up this way since the peaks are brought down and nothing will overload. Loudness maximizing is generally the last step in your signal chain. First, you need to set the threshold where limiting begins, and this will typically be quite high. The lower your threshold, the more of the mix you'll be limiting. If your mix sounds pretty low, you can lower this threshold. If your mix is quite strong, you can try a threshold from -1 to -3 for a fuller sound. Let's take a quick listen here. And let's stop the playback. My mix is pretty loud already. That means I don't need too low a threshold, so let me set it at about -3. Let's poke around the interface a little more. The margin value here represents the final output level of the mix. When you turn it down, the mix gets softer. If loudness maximizing is your last step, you can set this pretty high, like about -0.3. If you've got more tweaking to do, leave some headroom by setting it around -2. Ozone gives you a few modes to choose. Which you choose depends on the song style and your genre. Soft provides a softer limiting effect. Some signals might exceed the margin this way. Brick wall is next, and this uses the margin as an absolute guide. Absolutely no output will exceed the threshold that you set. If you choose intelligent, you'll get transparent limiting, whereas brick wall and soft emulate analog limiter algorithms. Intelligent mode sets the release time for you, although you are able to make some adjustments. Currently, the character is set to smooth. This tool here controls release. The shorter the time, the faster the limiting, and the louder the signal. Too fast and the music will break up or distort. This scale here ranges from 0 to 10, with 0 being very fast and 10 being very slow. Overshoot, adjust until it sounds natural, and tweak it from there. Lower thresholds will need a longer release time. Let's leave the character at smooth, leaving us a medium-length release time. Now let's have a listen for distortion or any other type of inappropriate choppiness or artifacts. Afterward, we'll have a listen to the plugin bypassed so we can compare. The sound is definitely fuller and louder. Before we bypass, let's listen a little more. I just heard some distortion, so I might have to lower the level. Okay, let's bypass the plugin now and listen. More brightness and clarity in the instruments now. My next steps, after I've adjusted all my songs, would be to pull them into a single project file and work the mastering plugin for consistency across the CD. Are the levels matched? Does the CD have a common character? How do the tracks sound in sequence? I can't use a preset on all the tracks to give them consistency. I absolutely have to listen and watch, back and forth between the tracks and the songs many times. Then you're ready to dither and prepare your CD master, which is what we'll be learning about in our next video. As you can see here, I've already inserted the dithering plugin, but it is currently bypassed. It's on the last insert slot. And this concludes our video about loudness maximizing. See you back in a minute where we'll learn about prepping your CD master.